What is up, people? Welcome back to Blueprint Japan, the podcast where we talk about building a meaningful life and a business here in Japan. And this episode of the Blueprint Japan podcast is brought to you by Kumori, my own creative strategy studio based in Tokyo. We help brands and founders tell their stories across languages and borders. If you want to learn more about it, visit kumoristudios.com. That is kumoristudios.com. My name is Oğuzhan, and so today we are going to be talking about something that's going to change the landscape for a lot of foreign entrepreneurs in Japan. The new business manager visa reform, officially announced last month. So a lot is happening here in Japan, and the business manager visa has always been the foundation for foreigners and foreign founders who want to start or manage a company in Japan. It was a pretty simple entry point. You had to invest around 5 million yen, rent an office, show, a reasonable business plan if asked, and then you could just build from there. That was the entry point, and many freelancers, creatives, technical founders could actually make good use of that. And so now that window is basically closing. So starting October 16, 2025, which was around 3 weeks ago, the government enforced a completely revised standard. So in plain terms, that means the capital requirement jumps from 5 million yen to 30 million yen. You must hire at least one full-time employee, and they must be a Japanese, a permanent resident, or a long-term resident. And so anything else doesn't count. Any highly skilled worker or any type of visa other than that doesn't really count. Either you or your employee must have a Japanese proficiency at JLPT N2 level or higher. The founder of the company must hold a relevant business degree or have at least 3 years of management experience. The business plan now needs to be verified by a CPA, a tax accountant, or an SME consultant. On top of that, home offices are no longer allowed. And yes, immigration will now check your tax and social insurance compliance every single renewal. And that is the new realty, basically. And so the government stated, we are doing this to prevent paper companies and ensure real business activity. But so in tightening the system, Japan has also looked out the very people who basically bring new energy to the ecosystem: technical founders, independent consultants, which I'm one of them, creatives and small business owners who don't really have 30 million yen just lying around to invest in the money. And here I do have to say, I kind of agree with the government, but I also disagree with them. So why do I agree with the government? Okay. Well, I agree with them because from a government perspective, just letting people live in Japan and not really contributing to Japan's economy doesn't really make sense. And right now, this is reality. I am one of those people. I don't really contribute too much to the economy. I do pay my taxes, my business taxes that I have with Kumori, but compared to a big corporate, I am no one. And so people like me, people who just want to live in Japan and do their own thing, basically, that's not what the government wants under the business manager visa. For that purpose, you have the designated activities visa, which is the J-Find and J-Skip. I also have an episode on the J-Find visa, so you can have a listen to that. Or you can get the artist visa, you can get the student visa if you just want to work part-time and learn Japanese and live in Japan and do your own thing. But realistically, to run a business, to manage a company, that's not what I'm doing is not that. And so a lot of people like myself are in Japan who know exactly the beautiful parts to Japan and the convenience of life, the safety of life. And so the government doesn't want the business manager visa to be used for that purpose. So that part I get 100%. And where I do have to disagree is the government until now, and we do have a new prime minister. Until now, the government, at least Tokyo government, was like, hey, we want foreign entrepreneurs in Japan. We want them to be here. We want them to, excel and start their businesses. So we have the startup visa, which then converts into a business manager visa. And so you're doing all these claims and pretending to be super foreign friendly and welcoming. And yet, with a new revision, you basically rule out every single person that wanted to get the business manager visa um, in the future. And so, you can basically say, okay, so now this reform turned the business manager visa into a corporate management visa, because now you do have to manage a corporate and not a business anymore, right? Um, so it's not really for builders anymore, but it's rather for executives and people who do bring that long-term experience and value with them. So people with capital, people with credentials and a degree in business administration, those people, those type of people um, are what's the word I'm looking for? The government wants that type of people, and so they don't want the coder or the designer, who's been freelancing for years, um, or the technical founder who just launched their first product and doesn't have any money. So yeah, um, again, thoughts are rushing through my mind right now, but this is just to give you a quick update on the visa. And so, what does it mean for current visa holders? Okay, so there is a 3-year grace period until October 2028. You can still renew under the old standards. However, immigration will expect to see progress. They want to see that you're scaling towards these, new benchmarks. And so after that, renewals will only be approved if your business fully complies under the new standards. So what's happening now? What can founders do? Well, if you are a technical or creative founder, consider the JFind and JSkip visas. They are more flexible and designed for skilled professionals. Um, that's number one. Number two, you can try to get the highly skilled professional visa, which I'm going to have an episode on that later on this month. Number three, you can partner with a Japanese co founder who satisfies the language and employment conditions, um, which, again, for Japanese people, you know, they don't have to have these requirements anyways because they don't need the business manager visa. So that will make sense. If you still want to get your own business manager visa and work with a Japanese co-founder, you can be you can start your company, get the business manager visa, and hire your Japanese co-founder as an employee, because then you will have a Japanese employee can speak Japanese, who is Japanese. So that already fulfills one of the many criteria. So, but for everyone else, I think it's a time to plan ahead. And here is basically the bigger picture, which again is my opinion. Japan says it wants more startups, but it keeps raising the barriers for people who actually create them. And I think the country doesn't need fewer founders, but it does need a system that trusts the founders. So that recognizes small beginnings, people who want to come here, start their, for example, their F&B or their restaurant business, hospitality business, but in a very small scale, and then scale it properly with a 5 to 10 year plan. And so that is not really possible right now. Again, I do have to say there are points where I do see why the government is doing this, and I'm not going to get into the challenge the Japanese government has with Chinese-based, or China-based, or Chinese companies. However, I don't think this is the right approach. I think to have a fair approach, it should be individually assessed whether the company makes sense or not, whether the founding person can get the visa or not. But again, from a tax perspective and from a government perspective, this makes sense 100%. From individual and founder's perspective, I don't think it does. I had a LinkedIn post about this and it blew up. Many people commented on it. You can check it out. But yeah, there's that. These are the new changes to the business manager visa. And I do plan on having a proper, maybe 1 hour, not rushed like this one, episode on visas and specifically changing from J-Find to a highly skilled professional visa, which I did recently. So I got a 5 year highly skilled professional visa as an independent contractor. Because of these changes, it was too risky for me to hop on the business manager train. So I found a creative solution, which I'm happy to talk about. But yeah, this is it for now. I think I will wait for your questions, your comments, and thank you so much for listening, for tuning in. Thank you for leaving comments. Thank you for supporting me. And yeah, without further, babbling on, I wish you a blessed week ahead. Take it easy. Stay healthy. Stay curious. Stay humble.